Do you think you can just come here and take everything from us? Bradley's voice trembled with rage, his fists clenched so tightly that the knuckles turned white. You're mistaken, kid. I don't want to take anything, Marco replied quietly, wiping blood from his split lip. I just want a chance. A chance? Bradley laughed, and that laughter echoed through the empty gym. After what your country did to our soldiers, do you seriously think you deserve a chance? Coach Harrison stood between them, his face grim. Guys, enough. No, Bradley shouted, pointing a finger at Marco. I won't let this terrorist represent our school at the state championship. Never. Marco gripped the medallion his mother had given him before he left. Inside burned something he had never felt before. It was not just the pain of injustice. It was a flame that could either burn him or temper him like steel. Fine, he whispered, raising his eyes. Then I'll prove to you who the real fighter is. The best is yet to come. Stay with us to find out how it all ended. In the meantime, like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out. 16-year-old Marco Vasilyevich pressed his forehead against the airplane window, watching the lights of Chicago pass beneath the wing. His heart raced, not from the fear of flying, but from the realization that his old life was thousands of miles away, in a small Balkan country that still had not recovered from the aftermath of the war in the 90s. Mom, he whispered in his native language, touching the silver medallion around his neck. Inside was a photograph of his mother, the only thing he had left from home. I promise I won't let you down. 3 days ago, he had still been living in a refugee camp, where every day was a struggle for survival. His father had died in a car accident 2 years ago while working as a driver in a peacekeeping mission, and his mother had saved money for 3 years to send her son to America to a distant relative. You will live, were her last words. So, you will live for all of us. The plane landed with a dull thud, and Marco felt his stomach lurch. He took his only bag, a worn backpack with a few belongings, and headed to the exit. At the airport, his uncle Stanko was waiting for him, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and calloused mechanic's hands. They embraced silently, and Marco caught the scent of machine oil and cigarettes. Welcome to America, kid, Stanko said in a hoarse voice. Everything will be different here. They drove through the night city in a battered pickup truck, and Marco silently watched the neon signs he couldn't read. Stanko lived in a working-class neighborhood where every house looked the same, and the streets were empty. Listen to me carefully, Stanko said when they stopped in front of a small house. No one is waiting for you here with open arms. People are afraid of folks like us. They see the news about the war back home and think we are all terrorists. Marco nodded, but something inside him tightened. He had hoped that in America, the land of opportunity, things would be different. Stanko's house was small but clean. Family photos hung on the walls, showing the family he had left behind. His wife and 2 children had died in the early days of the war. The only luxury was an old guitar in the corner. Tomorrow you will go to school, Stanko said, showing Marco a small room with a narrow bed. I spoke with the principal. Your English is good. That will help. But remember, stay out of trouble. One wrong move, and you'll be deported back home. That night, Marco couldn't sleep. He lay staring at the ceiling, thinking about his mother. Where was she now? Alive. Had she received his letters from the refugee camp? In the morning, Stanko woke him up at 6 a.m. Get up, sleepyhead. In America, we wake up early and work hard. Breakfast consisted of black coffee and sandwiches with cheap sausage. Stanko was dressed in work clothes. He worked in a garage on the other side of town. I'll give you a ride to school, he said, the keys to the pickup jingling in his hand. And after classes, you can make your own way home. Here's some money for the bus. He handed Marco a few crumpled dollar bills. Uncle Stanko, Marco began, I want to thank you. No need to thank me, Stanko interrupted. We're family. It's our duty. But remember, I can't support you forever. You need to find your own path. Lincoln High School was huge compared to the small school in Marco's hometown. The 3-story brick building looked like a fortress, and the crowds of teenagers at the entrance resembled an army ready for battle. Marco took a deep breath and walked toward the main entrance. He was wearing the only decent jeans and the shirt his mother had bought him before he left. Are you new? A girl with light hair and kind eyes stopped him. She was about his age, with freckles on her nose and a smile that seemed genuine. Yes, Marco replied with an accent. My name is Marco. I'm Emily. She extended her hand. Where are you from? From the Balkans. He didn't want to go into details. Cool. Welcome to our crazy house, Emily laughed. Want me to show you around the school? They walked through the hallways and Marco felt the stares of other students on him. Some looked with curiosity, others with suspicion. Don't pay attention, Emily whispered. All new kids go through this. But Marco felt that it wasn't just because he was new. There was something else. The first classes went relatively smoothly. The teachers were polite but reserved. Marco tried not to stand out, only answering when asked and quickly jotting everything down in his notebook. During the break, he sat alone in the cafeteria, eating the sandwich Stanko had made for him that morning. Life buzzed around him. Laughter, conversations, the clatter of trays. But he felt invisible. Hey, you! A sharp voice made him look up. A tall guy with a buzz cut and muscular arms stood nearby. His name was Bradley Connor, as Marco learned later, and he was the star of the school football team. Yeah? Marco asked, trying to speak calmly. I heard you're from one of those countries where there's a war going on, Bradley said, his voice drawing the attention of other students. Is that true? Yes, it's true, Marco replied. So what are you doing here? Bradley sat down across from him, his friends gathering around the table. Oh, I don't. Why didn't you stay and fight for your country? Marco felt a tightening inside. My family wanted me to be safe. I see, Bradley smirked. My brother is in the army. You know where? In your neck of the woods. Every day he risks his life to stop your wars. I don't want war, Marco said quietly. No one wants it. Really? Bradley leaned in closer. Then why are you all fighting all the time? Why should our soldiers die because of you? The cafeteria gradually quieted down. Everyone was watching their table. My father died defending our village, Marco said, his voice trembling. He didn't want to fight. But when murderers come, you have to defend yourself. Uh-huh, Bradley nodded. And who was he defending? Other terrorists. The word terrorist hit Marco like a slap. He stood up from the table so abruptly that the chair fell over. My father wasn't a terrorist. His voice echoed through the cafeteria. He was a teacher. He taught children to read. Sure, Bradley sneered. By day a teacher, by night a terrorist. Classic scheme. Marco felt the blood rush to his face. His fists clenched involuntarily. But he remembered Uncle Stanko's words about trouble. I'm not going to fight you, he said quietly. Why not? Bradley asked. Afraid to show your true face? Because you're not worth getting kicked out of school over, Marco replied and walked toward the exit. Laughter erupted behind him, but he didn't look back. After school, Marco was walking to the bus stop when he heard quick footsteps behind him. Hey, wait. It was Emily. She caught up with him, slightly out of breath. I saw what happened in the cafeteria. And so? Marco asked, not stopping. I want you to know, not everyone here is like Bradley, she said. Many of us understand what you've been through. Marco stopped and looked at her. In her eyes, he saw genuine sympathy. Thank you, he said, but I don't want you to have problems because of me. I won't have problems, Emily smiled. And if I do, it's my choice. They waited for the bus together. On the way, Emily talked about school, the teachers, and what clubs were available. Do you play any sports? She asked. I used to box at home, Marco said, but that was a long time ago. We have a boxing club at school. Emily perked up. Coach Harrison is a great guy. Maybe you should give it a try. Marco shook his head. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? After today, I don't want to attract any extra attention. The bus stopped at his stop, and Marco stood up. Marco, Emily called out to him, don't let people like Bradley break you. You have the right to be here. At home, Stanko had not yet returned from work. Marco sat at the small kitchen table and tried to do his homework, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the events of the day. The word terrorist still burned in his ears. How could anyone speak like that about his father? About the man who went to school every morning to teach children the alphabet? Who read them stories and taught them to count? When Stanko returned home, he immediately noticed his nephew's gloomy mood. What happened? He asked, sitting down across from him. Marco recounted what had happened at school. Stanko listened silently, nodding occasionally. You know, he finally said, when I first came here, 15 years ago, I went through the same thing. People are afraid of what they don't understand. But how do you live with that? Marco asked. How do you go there every day knowing that you are seen as the enemy? Stanko stood up and walked over to the guitar in the corner. He picked it up and sat back down. When I had a hard time, I played, he said, strumming a slow, sad melody. Music is a language that everyone understands. It has no nationality, no war, no hatred. The melody was familiar, an old Balkan song that Marco's mother used to sing when he was little. "But I don't know how to play," Marco said. "But you know how to box," Stanko replied. "Your father told me in his letters. He said you have talent." "That was a long time ago." "Talent doesn't disappear," Stanko set the guitar aside. "Maybe it's time to remember." The next day at school, Marco tried to keep to himself. He sat in the back rows during classes, ate alone in the cafeteria, and quickly moved from class to class. But during lunch, Bradley approached him again. "How's it going, refugee?" he asked with a smirk. "Missing home? The explosions and gunfire?" "Leave me alone," Marco said, not looking up from his textbook. "What are you doing?" Bradley leaned over his shoulder. "Studying how to make bombs?" A few other students laughed. "I'm studying history," Marco replied. "What history?" "The history of terrorism." Marco slammed his textbook shut and stood up. "The history of your country," he said quietly. "The country that has given refuge to millions of refugees. The country that was built by immigrants." "Yeah, but not by immigrants like you," Bradley shot back. "Our ancestors came here to build, not to destroy." "And what do you know about destruction?" Marco's voice grew louder. "Have you ever seen your home burn? Watched your neighbors die? Seen your mother cry over your father's body?" The cafeteria gradually fell silent. Everyone was watching them. "My home didn't burn," Bradley said, "because we don't fight each other like savages." "Savages?" Marco stepped forward. "My people were creating art when your ancestors were still living in caves." Hey, guys!" Emily stepped between them. "Enough! Get lost, Emily," Bradley said. "This is none of your business." "It is very much my business," she replied firmly. "I won't let you bully a new student." "A new student," Bradley sneered. "You meant to say the potential terrorist, right?" "He's not a terrorist," Emily shouted. "He's a refugee. His family suffered from the war." "How do you know?" Bradley asked. "Maybe his family started the war?" Marco could no longer hold back. The words about family were the last straw. "My family?" His voice trembled with rage. "My mother is still searching for my father's body under the rubble of the school he was protecting. My sister is lying in a hospital without a leg that a shell took off, and you dare to say that we started the war?" The cafeteria fell into complete silence. Marco realized he had said too much, revealed too much pain. I didn't know about your sister," Emily said quietly. Marco grabbed his backpack and ran out of the cafeteria. He could no longer be in a place where his pain became a subject of curiosity or mockery. He ran through the hallways, ignoring the surprised looks, until he reached the gym. The door was ajar, and sounds of punches could be heard from inside. Marco peeked in and saw a boxing ring. In it was one person, a middle-aged man with graying hair. He was practicing punches on a bag, and each strike was precise and powerful. "Can I come in?" Marco asked. The man turned around. It was Coach Harrison, whom Emily had mentioned. "Of course," he said, wiping sweat with a towel. "You're the new guy, right? Marco, I think?" "Yes. I'm Jim Harrison, the boxing coach." He extended his hand. "I heard there was a little show in the cafeteria." Marco felt embarrassed. "News travels fast." "It's always like that in school," Harrison chuckled. "Rainy. Do you want to talk?" Marco nodded, and they sat on a bench by the ring. "Tell me about yourself," the coach said. "Where are you from?" "From Bosnia," Marco replied. "My city, it no longer exists." Harrison nodded in understanding. "I was there. During the war. Peacekeeping mission." Marco looked at him with surprise. "I saw what was happening," the coach continued. "It was terrifying and unfair." "Then why do others think we are all terrorists?" Marco asked. "Because people fear what they don't understand," Harrison answered. "And it's easier to label than to deal with a complex situation." They fell silent. Marco looked at the boxing gloves hanging on a hook. "Did you box?" the coach asked. "A little. Back home." "Will you show me?" Marco hesitated but then nodded. Harrison handed him the gloves and they approached the bag. "Hit it," the coach said. Marco threw a few punches. They were strong, but the technique was lacking. "You have potential," Harrison said, "but you need to work on your technique. Want to train?" "I'm not sure," Marco replied. "After today." "Exactly after today," the coach interrupted him. "Boxing will teach you to control your anger, to channel your energy in the right direction, and it will give you confidence. Marco looked at the ring, then at the coach. What if the other students are against it? Let them try, Harrison smirked. This is my gym, my rules. If someone can't accept diversity, then they don't belong here. All right, Marco finally said. I'll give it a try. Great. Harrison patted him on the shoulder. Training every day after school. Come tomorrow. That evening at home, Marco told Stanko about the conversation with the coach. That's good, his uncle said. Sports will help you find your place. What if it just creates more problems? Marco, Stanko looked at him seriously. When I was your age, I was scared too. Scared to stand out, scared to be different. You know where that led me? Marco shook his head. To living half my life trying to be invisible. But invisible people don't live. They just exist. Stanko picked up his guitar. Don't repeat my mistakes. The next day at school, Marco tried to avoid encounters with Bradley, but it wasn't easy. During history class, the teacher, Mr. Johnson, asked him to talk about his home country. Bosnia has a rich history, Marco began, standing in front of the class. It has been a bridge between East and West, a place where different cultures met. And now it's a place where they kill each other, someone from the back row said loudly. Mr. Johnson frowned. Who said that? The class was silent, but Marco knew. It was Bradley's voice. Go on, Marco, the teacher said. The war didn't start because people wanted to kill, Marco continued, his voice growing firmer. It started because politicians used the differences among people to gain power. Ordinary people, teachers, doctors, farmers, they didn't want to fight. Then why did they fight? A girl from the front row asked. Because when killers come into your home, you have no choice, Marco replied. You protect your family. After class, Emily approached him. That was great, she said. You helped many understand. Not everyone, Marco replied, seeing Bradley and his friends looking at him from the other end of the hallway. Not everyone can be convinced, Emily said, but it's important to try. After school, Marco went to the gym. Harrison was already waiting for him with the boxing gear. Ready to work? The coach asked. Ready. The next hour was intense. Harrison showed basic stances, taught how to throw punches correctly, explained how to defend oneself. Boxing is not just about punches, he said. It's about discipline, about control, about respect for your opponent. And what if your opponent doesn't respect you? Marco asked, thinking of Bradley. Then you show him that you deserve respect, Harrison replied. But not with your fists, with character, perseverance, achievements. By the end of the training, Marco was drenched in sweat but felt better than he had in days. Tomorrow at the same time, the coach said. And Marco, don't pay attention to those who try to break you. Focus on who you want to become. On the bus ride home, Marco thought about the coach's words. Who did he want to become? He wanted to be a person his mother would be proud of, a person who didn't shy away from challenges. At home, he found an unexpected surprise. A letter. The envelope was crumpled, with many postal stamps. This came today, Stanko said, from the refugee camp. Marco recognized his mother's handwriting. His hands trembled as he opened the envelope. My dear son, he read, I hope this letter reaches you. Anna and I are alive. She is recovering after surgery. The doctors say she will walk with a prosthesis, but she will walk. We are proud of you. Live life to the fullest. Don't let the past define your future. We love you. Marco felt tears welling up in his eyes. Stanko placed a hand on his shoulder. See, he said quietly, you have something to fight for. The next day at school, something happened that Marco feared the most. During lunch break, as he sat with Emily and a few other students, Bradley approached their table with a whole group. Look, he said loudly, our little refugee has made friends. Bradley, stop it, Emily said. And why? He sneered. I'm just curious what he's telling them. How his people kill American soldiers. My people don't kill American soldiers, Marco said, trying to stay calm. Really? Bradley sat down next to him, too close. Then who does? Ghosts? War's complicated, Marco began. Not for me, Bradley interrupted. For me it's simple. There are the good guys. That's us. And there are the bad guys. That's you. Then why did American soldiers protect my village from those who were killing us? Marco asked. Bradley hesitated for a moment, but quickly recovered. Because they didn't know who your real enemies were, he said. But I do. He stood up and poured the contents of his juice cup over Marco's head. Refresh yourself, terrorist. The cafeteria erupted in gasps of surprise and laughter. Marco sat there, juice dripping from him, feeling a growing rage inside. Marco, don't, Emily whispered, seeing him get up. But it was already too late. Marco grabbed Bradley by the shirt and yanked him toward himself. Bradley was caught off guard and lost his balance. You've gone too far, Marco hissed. And what are you going to do? Bradley broke free and shoved him. Blow up the school? Marco could no longer control himself. He punched Bradley in the face. Bradley retaliated in kind, and a fight broke out. They rolled on the cafeteria floor, exchanging blows until the teachers pulled them apart. To the principal's office, immediately, Mr. Johnson shouted. Principal Thompson was a stern but fair man. He listened to both sides and spoke with witnesses. Bradley, he finally said, your behavior is unacceptable. Racial bullying is punishable by suspension. What? Bradley exclaimed. He hit me first. After you poured juice on him and insulted his nationality, the principal replied. 1 week suspension. Then he turned to Marco. And you, young man, should have gone to the teachers instead of solving the problem with your fists. 3 days suspension. But that's unfair, Emily exclaimed, sitting nearby as a witness. Ms. Davis, physical violence is unacceptable, regardless of the circumstances, the principal said sternly. That evening at home, Stanko listened silently to Marco's account. I messed everything up, the nephew said. Now I might get expelled. You won't get expelled, Stanko replied, but you learned an important lesson. What lesson? That anger is a bad advisor. Stanko picked up his guitar and began to play a soothing melody. When you're angry, you do exactly what your enemies want. But I couldn't take it anymore. I understand, Stanko nodded, but there are other ways to fight, more effective ones. Like what? Become better than them, the uncle replied. Become so good at what you do that they can't ignore you. The next day, despite his suspension, Marco went to Coach Harrison. I heard about the fight, the coach said. Yeah, Marco lowered his head. I let you down. Let me down? Harrison smirked. Boy, when I was 16, I fought half the school. The main thing is to learn the lesson. And what lesson did you learn? That true strength is not the ability to hit, but the ability not to hit when provoked. The coach tossed him the gloves. Let's work. We have 3 days to channel your aggression in the right direction. The next 3 days were the most intense of Marco's life. Every morning he came to the gym and trained until exhaustion. Harrison taught him not only boxing technique, but also philosophy. A boxer fights not because he's angry, he said. He fights because it's his art. Anger makes you predictable, and a predictable boxer is a defeated boxer. By the end of the 3rd day, Marco felt like a different person. He still remembered the offense, but it no longer controlled him. Tomorrow you return to school, Harrison said. Ready? Ready, Marco replied. And for the first time in a long while, he truly felt that way. But when he returned to school, an unpleasant surprise awaited him. Bradley was back too, and he brought reinforcements. His older brother Tyler, who had recently returned from the army. There he is, Bradley pointed at Marco. The very terrorist I told you about. Tyler was bigger and more serious than his younger brother. He stared at Marco for a long time, studying him. So you're from Bosnia? He finally asked. Yes, Marco replied, bracing for more insults. I served there, Tyler said, in Sarajevo. Marco tensed up. Sarajevo was the epicenter of the fiercest fighting. And what did you see there? He asked. I saw people killing each other for their different faith, Tyler replied. I saw children dying of hunger. I saw a lot of crap. See? Bradley exclaimed. He knows what they are like. Shut up, Bradley, Tyler said sharply. You don't know what you're talking about. He looked back at Marco. I saw other things, he continued. I saw Bosnians risking their lives to save neighbors of different nationalities. I saw Muslims hiding Serbs and Serbs protecting Muslims. Bradley looked at his brother in confusion. War doesn't make people bad or good, Tyler said. It just shows who they really are. He extended his hand to Marco. My name is Tyler. Welcome to America. Marco shook his hand, feeling relieved. But that doesn't mean it will be easy for you here, Tyler added. Many people will judge you by your background. You'll have to prove who you are every day. I'm ready, Marco said. We'll see. Tyler smirked and left his brother in complete bewilderment. From that day on, the attitude towards Marco at school changed a little. Not everyone became friendly, but there were fewer direct insults. Tyler had clearly talked to more than just his brother. Marco focused entirely on his studies and training. His boxing results improved every day, and Harrison began talking about the possibility of participating in school competitions. We have an inter-school tournament in 6 months, the coach said after another training session. Do you want to give it a try? I don't know, Marco replied. What if I lose? What if you win? Harrison countered. Marco, talent without risk is just a lost opportunity. At home, Marco told Stanko about it. Participate, the uncle said without hesitation. Your father always said you should take every chance. What if I let the school down? What if you bring it glory? Stanko smiled. Do you know what your mother wrote in her last letter? Marco shook his head. That she saw you in a dream. You were standing on a podium with a medal around your neck, and the whole hall was applauding. Maybe it was a prophetic dream? The next day, Marco told the coach he was ready to participate in the tournament. Great, Harrison exclaimed. Then get ready for some serious work. We have 6 months to prepare. Those 6 months flew by like one day. Marco trained every day after school and attended extra classes on weekends. His technique got better, and his punches became more precise. Emily often came to watch his training and support him. You've changed, she said one day. You've become more confident. Boxing taught me to control myself, Marco replied. I used to be like a ship without an anchor. And now? Now I know where I'm sailing. A week before the tournament, an event occurred that could have ruined everything. During practice, Bradley walked into the gym with a few friends. Can we watch? He asked with an innocent look. Harrison frowned but allowed it. Marco continued his training, trying to ignore the spectators. Not bad for a terrorist, one of Bradley's friends said loudly. Shut up, Jason, Bradley unexpectedly said. Everyone looked at him in surprise. What? Jason asked. You said that yourself. I was an idiot then, Bradley replied. My brother explained something to me. He approached the ring where Marco was training. Hey, he called out. Marco stopped and looked at him. I want to apologize, Bradley said, for everything I said. It was wrong. The gym fell silent. Everyone waited for Marco's reaction. Thank you, he finally said. That means a lot to me. Maybe we can start over, Bradley suggested. Marco stepped down from the ring and extended his hand. My name is Marco Vasilyevich, he said. Nice to meet you. Bradley Connor, he replied, shaking his hand. Likewise. After that, the atmosphere at school changed dramatically. If the captain of the football team could befriend that Bosnian guy, then others began to treat Marco differently. Finally, the day of the tournament arrived. The gym of the neighboring school was full of spectators. Marco sat in the locker room, trying to calm his nerves. Do you remember what I told you? Coach Harrison asked. Box with your head, not your heart, Marco replied. Right. And what else? The opponent is not an enemy. He is a dance partner. Great, Harrison patted him on the shoulder. Now go out there and show them what you've learned. Marco stepped into the ring to the applause of his school supporters. In the front row sat Stanko, Emily, and to his surprise, Bradley with his brother. His first opponent was an experienced boxer from a school known for its athletic achievements, but Marco was ready. The first round went cautiously. Both boxers were studying each other. In the second round, Marco began to apply the techniques Harrison had taught him. By the third round, it was clear that he was winning. When the referee raised his hand, declaring him the winner, Marco felt tears welling up in his eyes. This was his first real victory in America. In the second fight, he faced a more serious opponent, last year's champion from a prestigious private school. The guy's name was Derek Miller, and he hadn't lost a single fight in 2 years. This guy is good, Harrison warned before the fight, but he has a weakness. He's too confident. The fight with Derek was a true test. He was fast, precise, and ruthless. By the end of the second round, Marco was losing on points. What are you doing? Harrison asked during the break. You're boxing like a tourist. He's too fast, Marco replied, breathing heavily. Not faster than your thoughts, and the coach responded. Stop reacting to his punches. Make him react to yours. Marco started the third round differently. Instead of defending, he went on the attack. Derek didn't expect such a change in tactics and began to make mistakes. With 30 seconds left in the fight, Marco landed a series of precise punches that sent Derek to the canvas. He got up, but it was clear he was shaken. When the final bell rang, Marco knew he had won. And indeed, the judges unanimously awarded him the victory. The final fight was set against the tournament champion of the previous 3 years, Marcus Johnson from Central School. This guy was a legend among school boxers. He hasn't lost a single fight in 4 years, Harrison said. But remember, every streak eventually ends. Before the final fight, Tyler approached Marco. I want to tell you something, he said. When I was serving in Bosnia, I met a guy about your age. His name was Admir. He lost his whole family in the war, but he didn't lose faith in people. Marco listened intently. He told me then, it doesn't matter where you come from. It matters where you're going. Tyler continued, today you will show everyone where you are going. The final fight drew a full house. It seemed the whole school had come to support Marco. Even Principal Thompson was in the front row. Marcus Johnson lived up to his reputation. He was strong, fast, and experienced. The first 2 rounds were evenly matched. Each boxer landed precise punches, but neither could gain a decisive advantage. By the start of the 3rd round, Marco was tired but refused to give up. He remembered his mother's words from a letter, his father's face, who had died defending the school, his sister in the hospital. This is not just a fight, he thought. This is my chance to prove that we deserve respect. The 3rd round was the most intense. Both boxers were giving it their all. A minute before the end, Marcus landed a strong punch that nearly sent Marco to the canvas. The crowd fell silent. It seemed all was lost. But Marco held on. He swayed but did not fall, and in his eyes a fire ignited that everyone present could see. With 30 seconds left before the final bell, he unleashed a combination of punches that caught Marcus off guard. A left hook to the body, a right uppercut to the chin, and the champion of the last 3 years found himself on the floor. The referee began the count. Marcus tried to get up but didn't make it in time. The final bell rang. When the referee raised Marco's hand, declaring him the new champion, the crowd erupted in applause. Stanko was crying, not hiding his tears. Emily was shouting with joy. Even Bradley stood and applauded. Champion of the school boxing tournament, Marco Vasilievich, the announcer declared through the microphone. But the most important moment was what happened afterward. An elderly man in an expensive suit approached the ring. I represent a university boxing program, he said to Marco. We would like to offer you a sports scholarship. Marco couldn't believe his ears. A sports scholarship meant free education at the university. It meant a future he could only dream of. I don't know what to say, he stammered. Just say yes, laughed Coach Harrison. You deserve it. That evening at home was a real celebration. Emily, Bradley with his brother, a few classmates, and even Coach Harrison came over. I want to make a toast, said Stanko, raising his glass, to my nephew who has shown us all that dreams come true if you are willing to fight for them. To Marco, everyone shouted in unison. After the guests left, Marco and Stanko sat on the porch, looking at the stars. Do you think Mom would be proud of me? Marco asked. I know she would be, Stanko replied. And Dad too. I want to bring them here, Marco said. When I finish university, I'll find a job. I'll bring Mom and Anna to America. You will do it, Stanko nodded. I have no doubt. A few days later, Marco wrote a long letter to his mother, telling her about the tournament, the scholarship, and his new friends. He also sent a photo of himself with the gold medal. Mom, he wrote, your son is no longer that scared boy who left home. I have found my place in the world, and soon we will be together again. At school, Marco was now treated very differently. He had become a hero, an example of what can be achieved despite all obstacles. Do you know what the most amazing thing is? Emily said to him at lunch. You have changed not only your life, you have changed people's attitudes towards all immigrants in our school. How so? Marco asked. Now, when a new student comes from another country, the kids don't look at them as a stranger. They think, maybe this is the next champion. This was the best reward of all. But the most important moment came 2 years later, when Marco received a reply letter from his mother. Inside the envelope was not only her letter, but also documents. My dear son, he read, after many years of waiting and thanks to the recommendation letters from your American friends, Anna and I have finally received permission to enter the USA. In 6 months, if everything goes well with the interview at the consulate, we will be in America. We are flying to you. Marco couldn't hold back his tears. Stanko, reading the letter over his shoulder, was also crying. See, said Uncle, all your fights were not in vain. You didn't just win the tournament, you won a future for the whole family. On the day of his mother and sister's arrival, a whole crowd gathered at the airport. Emily, Bradley, Coach Harrison, classmates, and even Principal Thompson came. When Marco saw his mother in the crowd of passengers, he ran to her, ignoring everyone around. They embraced in the middle of the airport, and the whole world ceased to exist. My champion, his mother whispered, kissing him on the cheek. My brave boy. Anna stood nearby on crutches, but with a huge smile on her face. "Hi, brother," she said. "I was so proud of you when I read your letters." "And I was proud of you," Marco replied, hugging his sister. "You are the strongest girl I know." On the way home, his mother talked about what had happened at home after his departure. "When your letters with photos arrived, the whole hospital read them," she said. "Doctors, nurses, other patients. Everyone knew about the Bosnian boy who became a champion in America." "And do you know what the most amazing thing is?" Anna added. Other young refugees started to get into sports, saying, "If Marco could do it, then we can too." At home, a real celebration awaited them. Stanko had prepared traditional dishes, and the whole house was decorated with flowers and flags of two countries, Bosnia and America. "Welcome home," Stanko said, hugging his daughter-in-law and niece. "Thank you," Marco's mother replied. "But you know what? Home is not a place. Home is where your family is." In the evening, when everything had settled down, the family sat in the living room, and the mother shared her plans. "I want to learn English and find a job," she said. "I don't want to be a burden." "Mom, you have never been a burden," Marco said. "You gave me the strength to fight." "And I want to go to school," Anna added, "and also do sports. Maybe swimming. There, the prosthesis is not a hindrance." "Of course," Marco smiled. "We have a great pool at our school." The next day, Marco took his mom and sister to school. The reaction was amazing. The entire hallway applauded as they walked by. Principal Thompson personally greeted them in his office. "Mrs. Vasilievich," he said in broken Bosnian, which he had learned especially for this day, "welcome to our school. Your son is the pride of our institution." Marco's mother burst into tears of happiness. "Thank you," she replied. "Thank you for giving my son a chance." "He earned that chance himself," the principal replied. In the cafeteria, another surprise awaited them. The students had prepared a large poster. "Welcome, Vasilievich family." Bradley approached Marco's mother. "Mrs. Vasilievich," he said, "I want to apologize to you. I treated your son poorly when he first came to school." "You are a good boy," she replied, placing her hand on his shoulder. "Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is that you recognized your mistake." "Your son has taught me a lot," Bradley said. "He showed me what true courage means." After school, the family went to the boxing gym. Coach Harrison showed the mother and Anna all the medals and trophies that Marco had won. "He is very talented," the coach said. "But most importantly, he never gives up." "He got that from his father," the mother replied. "His father also never gave up." Anna sat on a bench by the ring and watched her brother train. "Do you think I can swim as well as he boxes?" she asked. "You can do even better," the mother replied. "You have the same heart." A few months later, the family's life improved. The mother learned English and got a job at the hospital as a translator for immigrant patients. Anna started school and really began swimming. Marco continued to train and prepare for university admission. His story became known throughout the state, and he often spoke to other young immigrants, telling them that anything is possible in America. "The main thing is not to be afraid to be yourself," he said at one of those speeches. "Your background is not a barrier. It is your strength. Use it." On graduation day, Marco delivered a speech on behalf of all the graduates. "2 years ago, I came to this school as a scared boy who didn't know where he belonged," he said, standing at the podium. "Today, I leave here knowing that my place is where I can help others find theirs." The hall erupted in applause. In the front row sat his family, his mother, sister, and Uncle Stanko. They were all crying with pride. "America gave me a chance," Marco continued. "But that chance turned into an opportunity only because of the people who believed in me. Thank you for teaching me the most important lesson. We are all human, and we all have the right to dream." After the ceremony, a journalist from the local newspaper approached him. "Marco, what are your plans for the future?" she asked. "I will study international relations at university," he replied. "I want to become a diplomat and help resolve conflicts peacefully." "And boxing?" "Boxing will always be with me," Marco smiled. "It taught me that any battle can be won if you have enough strength and the right technique." In the evening, the whole family sat on the porch of Uncle Stanko's house, which had now become their shared home. "Do you remember what I told you on the first day?" Stanko asked. "That everything will be different in America," Marco replied. "And was I right?" Marco looked at his mother, who was reading a letter from doctors in Bosnia, thanking her for her help in translating medical documents for refugees. Then he looked at Anna, who was studying the Paralympic swimming program. Then at his uncle, who was playing melodies from their homeland on the guitar. "Yes," he finally said, "you were right. Everything has changed. But do you know what's the most amazing thing?" "What?" "I didn't lose myself by becoming an American. I found myself." At that moment, the phone rang. It was Emily from the university where she had been accepted. "Marco!" she shouted into the receiver. "Have you seen the news?" "What news?" "You've been nominated for the Best Athlete of the Year among Immigrants Award. The ceremony will be in Washington." Marco felt his heart start to race. "This is impossible," he said. "Oh, it's very possible. And do you know who nominated you?" "Who?" "Tyler Connor. He wrote an essay about how you change people's attitudes towards immigrants in our town." After the call, Marco sat in silence for a long time. "What happened?" his mother asked. He told her about the nomination. The whole family was thrilled. "My son will be in Washington," his mother exclaimed, "in the capital of America." "Mom," Marco said, "we're all going to Washington, the whole family. But it's expensive." "I have scholarship money," he smiled, "and it's worth it." A month later, the Vasilievich family was indeed flying to Washington. At the airport, they were greeted by representatives of the foundation that was awarding the prize. "Mr. Vasilievich," said the ceremony organizer, "your story has inspired thousands of young immigrants across the country." "I was just doing what I was supposed to do," Marco replied. "That's exactly what makes you special," the woman smiled. The ceremony took place in a huge hall with politicians, athletes, and public figures in attendance. When Marco's name was announced as the winner of the nomination, the hall stood up and applauded for a full 5 minutes. "This award is not just mine," Marco said in his acceptance speech. "It belongs to everyone who has ever left their home in search of a better life, to everyone who has not given up in the face of prejudice, and to every American who has reached out to help a stranger." He looked out at the audience where his family was sitting. "3 years ago, I was just a scared refugee. Today, I am an American who remembers where I came from and knows where I'm going." After the ceremony, a woman in a business suit approached him. "Marco, my name is Sarah Wilson. I'm from the non-profit organization New Americans," she said. "We've been following your story. We have an offer for you." "What is it?" "A summer internship in our refugee program. You would help other young immigrants adapt in America." Marco couldn't believe his ears. "But I haven't even started university yet," he said. "This is a summer program for high school students," Sarah explained. "And after university, if you want, we're ready to offer you a job in our organization." That night in their hotel room, the family discussed the offer for a long time. "This is your dream," Anna said, "to help people who have gone through what we did." "But I'm scared," Marco admitted. "What if I can't handle it?" "Son," his mother said, "you handled moving to a foreign country at 19. You dealt with prejudice and loneliness. You became a champion. What else can't you handle?" "Mom is right," Stanko added. "Your father always said, don't be afraid of big tasks. Be afraid of small dreams." The next day, Marco agreed to the internship. The summer in Washington became a turning point in his life. He worked in the office of the nonprofit organization with young refugees from different countries: Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia, Venezuela. Every day he saw in their eyes the same pain and hope that had once been in his own. "The main thing is not to lose faith," he told them. "America will give you a chance, but turning this chance into success is your job." One of the girls he worked with reminded him of himself in his early days at school. "My name is Fatima," she said. "I am from Syria. The kids at school say I am a terrorist." "Do you know what to tell them?" Marco asked. "What?" "That you are a person and that you have dreams, just like everyone else." By the end of summer, Fatima had joined the school drama club and even landed the lead role in the school play. "See," Marco told her, "talent has no nationality." When it was time to go home and prepare for university, the department head called Marco into his office. "I have an offer for you," he said. "We want you to be the face of our new program for young immigrants." "What does that mean?" "You will speak at schools, universities, and conferences, share your story, and inspire others. But studying, we will work it out with the university. It will count as an internship." Marco thought about all the young refugees he had met over the summer, their fears and hopes. "Okay," he said. "I agree." In the fall, he enrolled at Georgetown University in the International Relations program. Balancing studies with speaking engagements was not easy, but every letter from young immigrants inspired by his story gave him strength. He was particularly touched by a letter from a boy in Guatemala. "Dear Marco, my name is Carlos. I am 14 years old. I came here alone without my parents. When I heard your story, I realized that I am not alone. I also started playing sports, soccer. And you know what? I was chosen for the school team. Thank you for showing me that dreams can come true. Over 4 years at university, Marco spoke at more than 100 schools across the country. His story became part of the curriculum for immigrant integration. Meanwhile, life at home continued to improve for his family. Anna had indeed become a professional swimmer and even made it onto the U.S. Paralympic swimming team. Their mother opened a small center to help immigrants. Stanko finally brought his surviving sister from Bosnia. On graduation day, Marco gave another speech, this time to the graduates of the International Relations Program. 4 years ago, I thought my mission was to help my family adapt to America, he said. Today, I understand that my mission is much broader. It is to build bridges between people of different cultures. After the ceremony, the dean of the department approached him. Marco, we have an offer, he said. Would you like to stay and get a master's degree? We have a special program for working with refugees. And the State Department scholarship? They are willing to wait 2 years, the dean smiled. Your work is too important. That evening, Marco called Emily, who had been working as a journalist in Chicago for 3 years. I'm staying for another 2 years, he said. That's wonderful, she exclaimed. And you know what? I have news too. What? I'm being transferred to the International Department. I will cover refugee issues around the world. Seriously? Seriously? And you know what inspired me to take on this topic? Marco smiled, even though she couldn't see him. Your story, Emily continued. It changed not only you, it changed all of us. 2 years later, after earning his master's degree, Marco officially joined the same nonprofit organization where he had interned. He was appointed coordinator of the program to assist young refugees. On his first day at work, he sat in his small office at the organization and looked at a photograph on his desk, a family picture taken on the day of his graduation. Mom, Anna, Stanko, and his aunt, all smiling at the camera. There was also a letter on the desk that had arrived the day before. It was from Fatima, the girl from Syria he had worked with during his internship. Dear Marco, he read, today I got the lead role in the university theater. In 2 years, I will finish studying international law. My dream is to become a human rights lawyer. Thank you for teaching me to believe in myself. Your story changed my life. Marco put down the letter and looked out the window at the flags in front of the building. The American flag waved alongside the flags of charitable organizations from around the world. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. Come in, he said. His secretary entered with a folder of documents. Mr. Vasilevich, applications have arrived for the new program, she said. 300 young refugees want to participate. 300? Marco was surprised. Yes, and you know what's interesting? Half of them wrote in their motivational letters that your story inspired them. Marco took the folder and began to review the applications. Each story was unique, but in each he saw a reflection of his own journey. A boy from Afghanistan who wanted to become a doctor. A girl from Venezuela dreaming of engineering. A teenager from Somalia passionate about programming. Schedule a meeting with the program coordinators, he told his secretary. We need to expand the program. Expand? Yes. 300 young people is 300 success stories we can write together. In the evening at home, he bought a small house near his family. Marco sat at his desk and worked on his book. The publishing house had offered him to write an autobiography, and he agreed. The book was titled Bridges Instead of Walls, The Story of One Refugee. He planned to donate all proceeds from the sales to a fund to help young immigrants. The phone rang. It was his mother. Son, turn on the news, she said excitedly. What happened? Just turn it on. Marco switched on the TV. A segment was airing about the new State Department program for young refugees. This program is led by Marco Vasilevich, the announcer said, a Bosnian refugee who has himself journeyed from exile to a high-ranking official in the American government. His photo appeared on the screen. Mr. Vasilevich believes that every young refugee is a potential leader of the future, the segment continued. Then the camera showed an interview with one of the program participants, the same Carlos from Guatemala, who had once written him a letter. Marco showed me that anything is possible in America, Carlos, now a college student, said. Thanks to him, I realized that my background is not an obstacle, but an advantage. Marco felt his eyes fill with tears. The phone rang again. This time it was Anna. Brother, did you see the news? She shouted into the receiver. You're a celebrity. I'm just doing my job, Marco replied. No, she said seriously. You're fulfilling Dad's dream. What do you mean? Remember what he always said? That education is a bridge to a better future. You are building these bridges for thousands of children. After the conversation, Marco sat in silence for a long time. He thought about his father, who died protecting a school, about his mother, who gave everything to give him a chance, about Uncle Stanko, who sheltered him in difficult times, and about all the people who helped him along the way. Coach Harrison, Emily, even Bradley, who taught him to forgive. He opened his laptop and continued writing the book. Each of us is a bridge between the past and the future, between who we were and who we can become. My story is not just the story of one refugee. It is a story about what happens when society gives a person a chance, and they use that chance not only for themselves, but for others. An hour later, he received an email from the publisher. Marco, it read, the first chapter of your book has already created a stir. We want to organize a tour of universities. Are you ready to tell your story to students across the country? Marco thought about all the young people who are currently going through what he went through, about the fears, doubts, and loneliness, and about the incredible power of hope that can change everything. He typed his response. Ready. When do we start? At that moment, the phone rang one last time that evening. It was an unknown number. Hello, Marco answered. Mr. Vasilyevich, my name is Amina. I am from Yemen, said a young female voice with an accent. I am 17 years old. I came to America 3 months ago. Really? I saw a story about you on television, the girl continued, and I realized that I am not alone. I also want to help people. I want to become a doctor. That's wonderful, Marco said. And what is stopping you? I don't know how to start. I don't have money for college. I speak English poorly. Amina, Marco interrupted her, can you come to my office tomorrow? I have information about scholarships for gifted immigrant students. Really? Hope crept into the girl's voice. Really? And you know what? We are just starting a new program to prepare for medical school admissions. After the conversation, Marco sat by the window for a long time, looking at the lights of the capital. Somewhere out there, in this vast city, a girl from Yemen was sleeping, dreaming of becoming a doctor. Tomorrow he would help her take the first step toward that dream. Just like many years ago, Coach Harrison had helped him take the first step toward his own dream. The circle was closing. The story continued. And at that moment, Marco realized the most important thing. He was no longer that scared boy who had once been called a terrorist in the school cafeteria. He had become what he had always dreamed of being, a bridge between worlds, a person who helps others find their way home. And home, as his mother had once said, is not a place on a map. Home is where you can be yourself and help others become who they want to be. And in America, the land of opportunity, 1,000 new homes are born every day. The next morning, Marco arrived at the office earlier than usual. He wanted to prepare materials for the meeting with Amina. Information about scholarships, contacts for teachers, programs for medical exam preparation. At 9 in the morning, the secretary brought a fragile girl in a hijab into his office. Amina looked even younger than her 17 years. Her eyes were filled with both fear and determination. Welcome, Amina, Marco said in Arabic, a language he had learned over the years of working with refugees. The girl looked up in surprise. You speak Arabic? A little, he smiled. When you work with people from all over the world, you inevitably learn languages. They talked for almost 2 hours. Amina shared her story, how her family fled from Yemen, how they lost their father on the way, how her mother worked 16 hours a day as a cleaner to feed 3 children. I want to become a doctor to help people like us, she said, her voice trembling with emotion, so that no one dies just because they can't afford treatment. Marco saw the same fire in her eyes that had once burned in his own. Amina, he said, I have good news for you. The Rockefeller Foundation has announced a new program of full scholarships for talented refugee students who wish to study medicine. The girl couldn't believe her ears. Really? Really? But there is one condition. You need to pass a test in English and natural sciences. But my English? Your English is better than you think, Marco interrupted. And what you're missing, we will make up for in the preparatory courses. Amina burst into tears right in the office. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for believing in me. I don't just believe in you, Marco said. I know you can do it, because once other people believed in me. After the meeting with Amina, Marco felt a special uplift. Another life could change drastically. Another dream could come true. But at lunch, the secretary brought him an urgent message that turned his world upside down. Mr. Vasilyevich, she said in a pale voice, they called from Bosnia, from the refugee camp. Marco's heart skipped a beat. What happened? Your Aunt Milena, she is in the hospital. The doctors say, the secretary couldn't continue. Marco grabbed the phone and dialed the number of the refugee camp. He spoke with a doctor who had known his family for many years. Marco, the doctor said sadly, your aunt is very ill. Stage 4 cancer. She has a few weeks left. But how is that possible? She was healthy when she came to visit us. The disease developed silently. Do you know what she asked me to tell you? What? That she is prouder of you than of her own children, and that she doesn't want you to come. She says you have more important things to do, saving the lives of other people. Marco couldn't hold back his tears. Doctor, how much will the treatment cost? Maybe if we bring her to America? Marco, my son. The doctor's voice was full of compassion. Even in America, medicine is not omnipotent. The best thing you can do is to remember her as she was. After the conversation, Marco sat for a long time in the empty office. Aunt Milena was the last link to his childhood in Bosnia. She hid with him in the basement during the bombings. She sang lullabies to him when he was afraid to sleep because of the sounds of explosions. That evening at home, he told his family about the call. Everyone was silent, shocked by the news. We have to go, his mother said. But the doctor said, it doesn't matter what the doctor said, she interrupted. Milena is my sister. I won't let her die alone. Mom, a trip to Bosnia right now. Marco, Stanko placed a hand on his shoulder. Some things are more important than work. Family is one of them. The next day, Marco contacted several charitable organizations. To his surprise, one of them, a refugee aid fund that knew his story, offered assistance. Marco, the director of the fund, said, we can arrange a medical evacuation for your aunt to the U.S. We have special programs for families that have contributed to the adaptation of refugees. Really? Really? Given your work with young immigrants and the impact of your story, it's the least we can do for you. A week later, a special medical flight organized by the charity brought Aunt Milena to a private clinic in Washington. Marco met her at the airport, and when he saw how the illness had changed his once strong aunt, he barely held back his tears. My boy, she whispered in a weak voice, you've grown into a real man. Aunt Milena, he gently hugged her. We will heal you. Here are the best doctors in the world. She smiled a sad smile. Son, some things are not healed by doctors. They are healed by love. The whole family gathered at the hospital. Mother, Anna, Stanko, even distant relatives who lived in other states. Aunt Milena's room turned into a place of reunion for all those scattered by the war. Do you know what makes me the happiest? Aunt Milena asked when they were alone. What? That our family is together again, even if it's in a hospital. The doctors were honest. Treatment could prolong life, but not save it. Aunt Milena understood this and asked not to torment her with chemotherapy. I want to spend my remaining time with family, she said, not in a procedure room. Marco took an unpaid leave and came to the hospital every day. Aunt Milena told him stories about his father, about their childhood, about life in Bosnia before the war. Your father dreamed that you would become a teacher like him, she said, but you became something more. You became a teacher for an entire generation. I'm just doing what I have to do. No, she took his hand. You are doing what you believe in, and that is something entirely different. A week later, Aunt Milena's condition worsened. The doctors said there was very little time left. That night, Marco didn't go home. He sat by her bedside, holding her hand and telling her about his work, about the young refugees he helps. Today, a girl from Yemen came to see me, he said. She wants to become a doctor. She reminds me of myself at 17, just as lost and full of hope. Will you help her? Of course. Then I can leave in peace, Aunt Milena whispered, knowing that you will continue to help people. In the morning, Aunt Milena passed away in her sleep, holding Marco's hand. The funeral was held according to Bosnian traditions, but in an American church. Hundreds of people attended. Marco's colleagues, his former classmates, young refugees he had helped. Even Bradley and his family traveled from another state. She was a bridge between worlds, the priest said, just like this entire family. After the funeral, Marco struggled to return to work. His aunt's death made him rethink many things. He realized how fragile life is and how important it is to do something meaningful every day. When he finally returned to the office, a surprise awaited him. On his desk lay a huge stack of letters and cards. What is this? He asked the secretary. Condolences, she replied. From all the young people you helped. They learned about your loss and wrote. Marco began to read the letters. Each one was filled with gratitude and support. "Dear Marco," wrote Carlos from Guatemala, "I know how hard it is to lose loved ones, but know that your aunt lives on in each of us, whom you helped find a new life." "Marco," wrote a girl from Somalia, "you gave me faith in the future. Now it's my turn to pass that faith on." The last letter was from Amina. "Dear Mr. Marco," he read, "yesterday I received my test results. I passed. I was accepted into the preparatory program. Your aunt would be proud. Her nephew has saved another life. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." Marco couldn't hold back his tears, but they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of gratitude. That same day, he received a call from the publisher. "Marco, I have incredible news," he said excitedly. "Your book has made the bestseller list. It's third in the entire country." "Really? Really? And what's even more important, sales are growing every day. People are buying it for their children, giving it to immigrant friends, recommending it on social media. What are readers saying?" "Listen for yourself." The publisher put the call on speaker and began reading reviews from the website. "This book changed my attitude towards refugees. After reading, I realized that behind every immigrant is a human story. My teenage son read the book and said he wants to volunteer at the Refugee Assistance Center." Marco listened and understood. His aunt's death was not in vain. It showed him how precious time is and how important it is to seize every opportunity to help others. "I have a proposal," he said to the publisher. "I want to organize a tour of schools and universities, free lectures for students." "That will cost a fortune." "The book's income will cover the expenses," Marco interrupted. "And if it doesn't, I'll pay the difference from my savings." "Are you sure?" "I've never been so sure of anything." The tour began a month later. The first lecture took place at the very university where Marco earned his master's degree. The hall was packed. Students, professors, local residents, and media representatives all came. "5 years ago, I was a refugee whom my classmates called a terrorist," he began his speech. "Today, I stand before you as a representative of the American government. But most importantly, I stand before you as a person who has understood a simple truth." The hall fell silent in anticipation. Each of us is someone's hope. Each of us can be a bridge between despair and faith. After the lecture, a group of students approached him. "Mr. Vasilevich," one of the girls said, "we want to start a club to help young refugees. Will you help us?" "Of course," Marco replied, "but I have one condition." "What is it?" "The first person you help should be a girl named Amina. She is studying medicine and needs a mentor." 6 months later, during the tour, Marco spoke at more than 50 universities. New volunteer programs to assist immigrants were created in every city. But the most significant event occurred during his speech at the University of California. A familiar face was in the audience. Coach Harrison, who had flown in from another state just for this. After the lecture, they embraced for a long time. "I was so proud of you," the old coach said. "You have become exactly who you were meant to be. Thank you for teaching me not only how to box, but also how to believe in myself." "And now you are teaching this to others," Harrison smiled. "The circle is complete." That same evening, Marco received a call from his mother. "Son, turn on the news," she said excitedly. "More news. Just turn it on." The screen showed a segment about refugee assistance programs that were being created at universities after Marco's speeches. "In the past 6 months, over 100 student organizations to help young immigrants have been established in the U.S., the announcer said. The movement was initiated by Marco Vasilevich, author of the bestseller, Bridges Instead of Walls. The camera showed interviews with several students. "Marco's book opened my eye," said a girl from Yale University. "I realized that every refugee is not a problem, but an opportunity." "We have already helped 20 young immigrants get into colleges," said a student from Texas. "And this is just the beginning." Then Amina appeared on the screen. Marco didn't recognize her at first. She looked more confident and spoke without an accent. "Marco Vasilevich saved my life," she said. "But more importantly, he taught me how to save the lives of others. In 2 years, I will become a doctor and work in clinics for refugees." Marco felt tears welling up in his eyes. At that moment, the phone rang. It was an unknown number with an international code. "Hello?" he answered. "Mr. Vasilevich?" a voice said with a strong accent. "My name is Omar. I am from Syria. I live in a refugee camp in Turkey." "Yes?" "I read your book. Someone brought it to the camp. I am 18 years old and I dream of becoming an engineer. What is stopping you? I have no documents, no money, no way to go study. Omar, Marco interrupted him. Do you know what I will tell you? What? The same thing that someone once told me. Your background is not an obstacle. It is your strength. But how can I get to America? Right now, I can't promise that it will happen quickly, Marco replied honestly. But I can promise that I won't leave you alone. Tomorrow I will contact organizations that help talented refugees obtain educational visas. Really? Really? And Omar, keep dreaming. Dreams have a way of coming true if you fight for them. After the conversation, Marco stood by the window for a long time, looking at the lights of the capital. Somewhere out there, across the ocean, in an overcrowded refugee camp, sat a boy who dreamed of the same thing Marco once dreamed of. And Marco knew this boy would get his chance, because now he had an army of helpers, thousands of students across America who believed in the power of human kindness. The phone rang again. Marco. It was Emily, who was now working as a correspondent in Europe. Hi, Em. I just interviewed refugees in a Greek camp, she said excitedly. Do you know what they told me? What? That your book is circulating in all the refugee camps in Europe. It's being translated into different languages, handwritten, read aloud to those who can't read. Marco couldn't believe his ears. Seriously? Seriously? Marco, do you understand what is happening? You are giving hope to millions of people around the world. I just told my story. No, Emily interrupted. You told their story, the story of everyone who has ever felt like an outsider in this world. After the conversation, Marco sat down at his computer and began writing a new book. It was called Letters of Hope, Stories of Young Refugees in America. In it, he collected the stories of all the young people he had helped over the years. Carlos, who became an engineer, Fatima, who studied law, Amina, who was training to be a doctor, dozens of others. Each of these stories, he wrote in the introduction, is proof that the human spirit is stronger than any borders and prejudices. A year later, the new book also became a bestseller, but more importantly, it drew Congress's attention to the issues facing young refugees. The senator from Illinois personally invited Marco to a hearing in Congress to discuss a new national education program for young immigrants. Mr. Vasilevich, the senator said during the meeting, your work has shown that investing in the education of refugees is an investment in the future of America. Thank you, Senator. I have a proposal, the senator continued. Would you like to head a new regional agency for the integration of young immigrants in our state? Marco was momentarily speechless. I don't know what to say. Say yes, the president smiled. The country needs people who understand this issue from the inside. That very evening, Marco called his family to share the news. Director of the regional agency, Stanko repeated. Who would have thought? Your Aunt Milena would be so proud, his mother added, tears in her eyes. She is proud, Marco said quietly. Wherever she is proud of all of us. The appointment ceremony took place in a solemn atmosphere. High-ranking officials, diplomats, and media representatives were present in the hall. But the most important guests were the young people Marco had helped over the years. Amina arrived in a white coat. She was already working as an intern at a hospital. Carlos flew in from California, where he was finishing his master's degree in engineering. Fatima was there with her law degree. Today I take this position not as an individual achievement, Marco said in his inaugural speech, but as a commitment to every young person seeking their place in this great country. After the ceremony, an elderly man in military uniform approached him. Mr. Vasilevich, he said, my name is General Thompson. I served in Bosnia during the war. Marco looked at him with interest. I was there when your father was killed, defending a school, the general continued. We couldn't save him then, but today I see that his sacrifice was not in vain. The general handed Marco a small box. This is a medal that we didn't have the chance to present to your father. Now it belongs to you. Marco opened the box. Inside lay the 4 Courage medal with his father's name engraved on it. Thank you, he whispered, clutching the medal in his hand. No, the general replied. Thank you for continuing his work. That same evening at home, Marco sat for a long time with his father's medal in his hands. Next to him lay a photograph of Aunt Milena, letters from young refugees, and his own awards. Dad, he spoke aloud, I hope you see what's happening. Your son is no longer that scared boy who left home. He has become what you wanted him to be, a person who helps others. At that moment, the phone rang. It was Omar from the Turkish refugee camp. "Mr. Marco," he shouted into the receiver, "I have incredible news." "What is it?" "I got accepted into an American university with a full scholarship. I'm flying to America in a week." Marco felt his heart swell with joy. "Omar, that's amazing. It's all thanks to you. You kept your promise." "No," Marco replied. "It's thanks to you. You never stopped dreaming." "And you know what's the most amazing part?" Omar continued. "There are 20 more guys in the camp who also want to study in America. They've all read your book. And what? I promised them that when I become an engineer, I will definitely help them get an education too." Marco smiled. The circle was closing again. "Omar," he said, "welcome to America. Welcome home." Hanging up, Marco looked at the family photo on the table, then at his father's medal, then at the stack of letters from young refugees from around the world. And at that moment, he realized the most important thing. His story did not end when he achieved success. It begins anew every time someone else gets a chance to change their life.